welcome. I'm excited to be kicking off our 27th annual African American Read-In. As African Americans, we navigate spaces and institutions that aren't always welcoming or inclusive. And it's important that we recognize the historic significance of the Dunbar Pavilion. We want you to know that in this space, even virtual, you're seen, you're heard, and you're celebrated. So welcome. The Dunbar Pavilion is a nonprofit center that's located in Tucson, Arizona in the historic Dunbar Spring neighborhood. And it was once a segregated school that was established by the Tucson Unified School District. It was created to educate Black children in grades 1st through 8th from 1918 to 1978. The center is now emerging as a space that seeks to reverse the systemic trajectory of bigotry and ignorance in our community by elevating and centering Black voices and Black experiences. The Dunbar is entering into its second year of partnership with the African American Coalition for Health and Wellness, the University of Arizona's Center for Regional Food Studies, and El Rio Health to continue to bring the Dunbar Health and Wellness program to our community and beyond. This program, funded by the University of Arizona Howry program, is designed to create a space that centers Black health and wellness and promotes holistic health and healing practices that are rooted in Indigenous ways in healing. I'm going to pass it over to our marketing manager, Akil Hamid.
Thank you very much, Desiree. So the African American Read-In was formed in 1990, and it is the first and oldest event dedicated to diversity in literature. Established by the Black Caucus of the National Council of Teachers of English, the Read-In was designed to make literacy an integral part of Black History Month. More than 6 million people have participated in the African American Read-In, held in libraries, schools, bookstores, coffee shops, churches, prisons, and wherever people gather to recognize the written word. Readers will be given 4 minutes to read their piece that they have selected to share. Speakers will begin with sharing their name, title, and author, and what they are reading, and then begin. At the conclusion of their piece, they will mute themselves and the next name will be announced. We will announce all names to the best of our abilities, so please correct us if we make a mistake. Please join me in welcoming our first reader, Allison Musoshi, to the spotlight.
Hello, my name is Allison Mushoshi, and I have selected to read this book, We Should All Be Feminists by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I selected this piece because it's one that resonated with me as an individual, and also because Chimamanda is an African immigrant author who mirrors my own personal experience so much. And I feel like there's so much I can learn from her and continue to learn from her as she grapples with being human on this planet. So I'll start. The problem with gender is that it prescribes how we should be rather than recognizing how we are. Imagine how much happier we would be, how much freer to be our true individual selves if we didn't have the weight of gender expectations. Boys and girls are undeniably different biologically, but socialization exaggerates. Sorry, can you all hear me? Okay. Boys and girls are undeniably different biologically, but socialization exaggerates the difference and then starts a self-fulfilling process. Take cooking, for example. Today, women in general are more likely to do housework than men, cooking and cleaning. But why is that? Is it because women are born with a cooking gene, or because over the years, they've been socialized to see cooking as their role? I was going to say that perhaps women are born with a cooking gene until I remembered that the majority of famous cooks in the world who are given the fancy title of chef are men. I used to look at my grandmother, a brilliant woman, and wonder what she would have been if she'd had the same opportunities as men during her youth. Today, there are more opportunities for women than there were during my grandmother's time because of changes in policy and law, which are very important. But what matters even more is our attitude, our mindset. What if in raising children, we focus on ability instead of gender? What if we focus on interest instead of gender? I know a family who has a son and a daughter, a year apart in age, both brilliant at school. When the boy is hungry, the parents say to the girl, "Go and cook Indomie noodles for your brother." The girl doesn't like to cook Indomie noodles, but she's a girl and has to. What if the parents from the beginning taught both children to cook them? Cooking, by the way, is a useful and practical life skill for a boy to have. I've never thought it made much sense to leave such a crucial thing, the ability to nourish oneself, in the hands of others. I know a woman who has the same degree and same job as her husband. When they get back from work, she does most of the housework, which is true for many marriages. But what struck me was that whenever he changed the baby's nappy, she said thank you to him. What if she saw it as something normal and natural that he should help care for his child? I am trying to unlearn many lessons of gender I internalized while growing up, but sometimes I still feel vulnerable in the face of gender expectations. Thank you.
Thank you, Allison. And now I welcome to the spotlight Marjorie Miller to our spotlight.
Unmute myself.
Yes, we hear you.
Okay. I'm going to read from Beloved by Toni Morrison. When I got to page 87 and read through to page 89, I really felt like I experienced some sort of a healing. In the heat of every Saturday afternoon, she sat in the clearing. "Let your mothers hear you laugh," she told them. And the woods rang, the adults looked on and could not help smiling. "Then let the grown men come," she shouted. They stepped out one by one from among the ringing trees. "Let your wives and your children see you dance," she told them, and ground life shuddered under their feet. Finally, she called the women to her. "Cry," she told them, "for the living and the dead. Just cry." And without covering their eyes, the women let loose. Women stopped crying and danced. Men sat down and cried. Children danced, women laughed, children cried. Baby Suggs Holy offered up to them her great big heart. She did not tell them to clean up their lives or to go and sin no more. She did not tell them they were the blessed of the earth, its inheriting meek or its glory bound pure. She told them that the only grace they could have was the grace they could imagine, that if they could not see it, they would not have it. "Here," she said, "in this here place, we flesh that weeps, laughs, flesh that dances on bare feet in grass. Love it hard. Yonder, they do not love your flesh. They despise it. They don't love your eyes. They just as soon pick them out. No more do they love the skin on your back. Yonder, they flay it. And oh, my people, they do not love your hands. Those they only use, tie, bind, chop off, and leave empty. Love your hands, love them. Raise them up and kiss them, touch others with them, pat them together, stroke them on your face, because they don't love that either. You got to love it, you. And no, they ain't in love with your mouth. Yonder out there, they will see it broken and break it again. What you say out of it, they will not heed. What you scream from it, they do not hear. What you put into it to nourish your body, they will snatch away and give you leavings instead. No, they don't love your mouth. You got to love it. This is flesh I'm talking about here. Flesh that needs to be loved. Feet that need to rest and to dance. Backs that need support. Shoulders that need arms, strong arms. I'm telling you, and oh, my people out yonder, hear me. They do not love your neck unnoosed and straight. So love your neck. Put a hand on it. Grace it. Stroke it. Hold it up. And all your inside parts that they just as soon slop for hogs, you got to love them. The dark, dark liver, love it, love it. And the beat and beating heart, love that too. More than eyes or feet, more than lungs that have yet to draw free air, more than your life-holding womb and your life-giving private parts, hear me now, Love your heart, for this is the prize.
Thank you so much. We now welcome Sharon Browning to the spotlight.
Hi, I'm going to recite two poems that are from my upcoming chapbook. The first poem, Coming of Age, A Black Girl's Encounter with the Sea, or Why Toni Morrison Grew Up in Lorain, Ohio. Great white sharks circle, sniffing for blood, wondering who had become woman in the past fortnight. The sharks beckon, their brothers, uncles, cousins, their mouths agape, teeth ravenous. Come fishing, the water, the water, the water teems with flesh, all kinds of flesh. Take a bite. Here, let me have a bite. There, have a bite. No blood? Still, bite, bite, and bite. Until the flesh lets the soul go, until all that's left can be thrown away. Left to rot, grow putrid, not worth bait for the next hunt. The second poem is titled Stand In for Asphyxiation, Erotic Blues. And it was, once again, I write a lot from historical events, and this one was unfortunately from George Floyd's death. Hands in your pockets, 8 minutes, 46 seconds. Were you searching for that lint covered butterscotch, rubbing off the fuzz to pop into your mouth? That smooth, sweet flavor, making your mouth gush like you had tasted a man's anguish, mouth-watering crowd anxiety creeping through your body, an orgasm stuck on nerve endings as your fingers fumbled in your pockets, hard candy filled with exhilaration. I saw you smile, and your grin never left. Your grin never left. Those teeth never stopped gleaming, even as the last breath exhaled. Did you want to holler? Did you want to say, oh, baby? Did you want to speak in tongues? Was it good for you? Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. I now welcome Trisha to the spotlight.
Good evening. I chose an excerpt from Cicely Tyson's memoir, Just As I Am, which is written by her along with Michelle Boucher. I chose this because Cicely wrote this with Michelle when she was 95 years old. She just recently passed away, so this was just last year when she wrote this, and she definitely had something to say. And I read this book in these 400 pages in about 3 days, and not straight through. Of course, I was working and doing everything else, but I could not. Every time I had a moment, I picked this book up. But in the summation of what she says that I'm about to read really moved me, and I thought that it was a culmination of someone who has wisdom and once again has something to say. And make no mistake, my dear children, whether or not we recognize it, you and I were born into a legacy of trauma, just as surely as we've inherited our foreparents' resilience. The wound, festering for centuries, morphs frequently in appearance. It has traversed through woods and swamps, navigated in darkness from the south to the north, and presented itself right here in the present. Upon arrival, a whole lot like fortitude, which it is. But beneath that brave face is another one, bruised and ailing, bloodied by the indignities of the journey. The wound in our times now manifests as self-injury. It shows up in behaviors, conscious and unconscious, that demean us. It appears in the form of sharp-tongued mothers more apt to make to take up switches than to display tender words to their youngins. It rises to the surface as hypertension and anxiety and depression. It looks like Miles Davis trying to deaden a lifetime of agony with a cocaine high. It has revealed itself in my life over and over, priming me to tolerate an abuse so achingly familiar in both my own story and that of my mother. No amount of Black girl magic, no repeated proclamations of our worth can fully treat the wound, although acknowledging it persists is a beginning. The ultimate remedy, as I see it, is supernatural. I look daily toward heaven for restoration, for spiritual healing. My true identity isn't rooted in our history, grievous and glorious as it is. It is grounded in my designation as a child of God, the daughter of the great physician. In his care, I find my cure. My hope for you is the same one I carry for myself. I pray that amid the heartache of our ancestry, you can grant yourself the grace so seldom extended to us. I pray that you can pass that compassion on to your children and to their children so that it slathers comfort on their pores. I pray that as a people, we can give ourselves a soft place to land. I pray even as we rightly express our fury at being regarded as subhuman, that we don't dwell in that place, that we don't allow anger to poison our spirits, that we embrace love as our one true antidote. I hope too that you recognize your specialness, the distinctiveness the Creator has imbued us with. I see you as clear as history has, and in unison with it, I nod. I know the swivel of your hips, the fervor in your testimony, that ebullience in your stride, that flair in your song, the fact that others are constantly trying to diminish you, ever attempting to dismiss your talents, even as they mimic them, is proof of your uniqueness. No one bothers to undermine you unless they recognize your brilliance. More than anything, I pray that you can carve out a purpose for yourself, a calling beyond your own survival, a sweet offering to the world. You gain a life by giving yours away. Not everyone is meant to raise a picket sign, and yet each of us can choose a path of impact. Rearing your children with affection and warmth is a form of activism. Honoring your word impeccably is a way to raise your voice. Performing your job with excellence, with your chin high and your standards higher, is as powerful as any protest march. Sowing into the lives of young people is a worthy crusade. That is what it means to leave this world of ours more lit up than we found it. It's also what it means to lead a magnificent life, even if it is an unlikely one. Thank you.
Thank you. That was Trisha Batchelor. I didn't say your last name. We now welcome Gail V. Black to the spotlight. You are on mute. Can't hear you. Okay, there we go.
All right. Good evening, everyone. And tonight I am honored to read from chapter 3 in the book called Caste, The Origins of Our Discontents. It's by Isabel Wilkerson. And Ms. Wilkerson was the Pulitzer Prize winner 10 years ago for another very prominent book. And that was the book from The Warmth of Other Suns. And so here, 10 years later, she has come out with what I believe should be certainly required reading at every junior college and university, and perhaps even in advanced high school classes. And so I will begin with chapter 3, The American Untouchable, and then I'll read a brief excerpt from chapter 2, which will frame a bit more. In the winter of 1959, after leading the Montgomery bus boycott that arose from the arrest of Rosa Parks, and before the trials and triumphs to come, Martin Luther King Jr. and his wife Coretta landed in India. in the city then known as Bombay, to visit the land of Mohandas Gandhi, the father of nonviolent protest. They were covered in garlands upon arrival, and King told reporters, "To other countries I may go as a tourist, but to India I come as a pilgrim." He had long dreamed of going to India, and they stayed an entire month at the invitation of Prime Minister Nehru. King wanted to see for himself the place whose fight for freedom from British rule had inspired his fight for freedom and justice in America. He wanted to see the so-called untouchables, the lowest caste in the ancient Indian caste system, whom he had read of and had sympathy for, and who had been left behind after India gained its independence the decade before. He discovered that people in India had been following the trials of his own oppressed people in America, knew of the bus boycotts he had led. Wherever he went, the people on the streets of Bombay and Delhi crowded around him for an autograph. One afternoon, King and his wife journeyed to the southern tip of the country, to the city of Trivandrum in the state of Kerala, and visited a high school with high school students whose families had been untouchables. The principal made the introduction. "Young people," he said, "I would like to present to you a fellow untouchable from the United States of America." King was floored. He had not expected that term to be applied to him. He was, in fact, put off by it at first. He had flown in from another continent, had dined with the prime minister. He did not see the connection, did not see what the Indian caste system had to do directly with him, did not immediately see why the lowest caste people in India would view him, an American Negro and a distinguished visitor, as low caste like themselves, see him as one of them. "For a moment," he wrote, "I was a bit shocked and peeved that I would be referred to as an untouchable." Then he began to think about the reality of the lives of the people he was fighting for. 20 million people consigned to the lowest rank in America for centuries. Quote, "still smoldering in an airtight cage of poverty, quarantined in isolated ghettos, exiled in their own country." And he said to himself, "Yes, I am an untouchable, and every Negro in the United States of America is an untouchable." In that moment, he realized that the land of the free had imposed a caste system, not unlike the caste system of India, and that he had lived under that system all of his life. It was what lay beneath the forces he was fighting in America. And now a brief excerpt from chapter 2. And this broadens the definition. Throughout the human history, 3 caste systems have stood out. The tragically accelerated, chilling, and officially vanquished caste system of Nazi Germany, the lingering, millennia-long caste system of India, and the shape-shifting, unspoken, race-based caste pyramid in the United States. Each version relied on stigmatizing those deemed inferior to justify the dehumanization necessary to keep the lowest ranked people at the bottom and to rationalize the protocols of enforcement. The caste system endures because it is often justified as divine will, originating from sacred text or the presumed laws of nature, reinforced throughout the culture and passed down through the generations. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. I now welcome Frida Baker to the spotlight.
Well, what happened? Hello. I'm going to read from I'm Gonna Be by Wade Hudson, illustrated by Culverson Blair. I don't have an abundance of adult reading books, but I do have tons of children's books. So speaking with some of my great grandchildren 2 or 3 days ago, we were on this topic. So I thought this would be fitting to read. What are you gonna be when you grow up, Steph? An athlete? Asked Robo. You're always playing with the ball. Maybe, answered Steph. Maybe not. Do you know what you want to be? I'm going to be a doctor like Dr. Daniel Hale Williams. I could discover a cure for a terrible disease. I might be an astronaut like Dr. May C. Jemison. I could be the first person to visit Mars. Maybe I'll be a chemist like Dr. Perry Julian. I could make a new medicine to help sick people get better. Or I could be an inventor like Elijah McCoy. I'd invent machines to make work easier for everyone. Well, I know what I'm gonna be when I grow up, said Glow. I'm gonna be a movie director like Spike Lee, and my movies will win lots of awards. Maybe I'll be a choreographer like Katherine Dunham. I could create a new style of dance. Or I could be a music composer like Mary Lou Williams. I'd write hit songs for Michael Jackson, Whitney Houston, and for orchestras too. I could also be a public relations director like Terry Williams. I could help the stars develop good images for the public. Excuse me, Glow, said Steph. Maybe I won't be an athlete. Maybe I'll be a businessman and own my own company like Reginald Lewis. I can give jobs to many people in my community. Or maybe I'll be a police officer and become police commissioner like Willie Williams. I could be a diplomat too and help settle disagreements between countries. I could be just like Ralph Bunche. Or I could be a publisher like John Johnson. I'd publish popular magazines. A physicist is what I plan to be, said Tour. I could be like Shirley Jackson. Maybe I'll find new ways to explain how things work in the universe. What if I become a psychiatrist like Dr. Francis Cress Welling? I could help people find answers to their problems. But I know I like to draw and construct things. I could be an architect and design beautiful buildings like Paul R. Williams. And now an engineer would be great too. I could be like Archie Alexander. I could plan and build important bridges. I've always liked to take pictures, said Nandy. I could be a photographer like Lorna Simpson and photograph many important events. Perhaps I'll be an artist like Elizabeth Catlett and have my paintings shown all around the world. But I like talking to people too. Maybe I'll be a newscaster like Norma Quarles and report the news to thousands of people. On the other hand, maybe I'll be a designer like Lois Alexander and create many new fashions. Actually, I thought about being a politician like Langston. I could run for the office of President of the United States, just like Jesse Jackson. I'd win too. Or I could be a writer like Langston Hughes. I always have a lot of ideas for stories. My dad said I could make a good lawyer. I could be like Constance Baker Motley and win court cases that would help all people. But I also like to teach. I could be a professor like Dr. Benjamin Mays and help students learn. No matter what we decide to become, said Nandy, we have to study hard and always do our best and never give up, cautioned Drobo. Yeah, said Langston, never give up. Thank you.
Thank you, Frida. And now we welcome Grace Saavedra to the spotlight.
Hi, so I chose Elizabeth Acevedo, and I chose her for two reasons. So the first is that in the Latino community, too often our Black Latinos' voices are silenced or conveniently ignored. And much like worldwide, Black folks, Black Latinos are our culture. And so I definitely wanted to highlight that, and she is an Afro-Latina. And the second reason I chose it was she tells the story of this poem in her university. The professor asked them to write an ode to an animal. And her being from New York City, she chose the rat. And her professor laughed at the idea and told her that wasn't an animal that was worthy of having an ode. And she felt that that was something that she had been told her whole life. So this is Elizabeth Acevedo's For the Poet Who Told Me Rats Aren't Noble Enough Creatures for a Poem. Because you are not the admired nightingale. Because you are not the noble doe. Because you are not the picturesque ermine, armadillo, or bat. They've been written, and I don't know their song the way I know yours scuttling between walls. The scent of your collapsed corpse bloating beneath floorboards, your frantic squeals as you wrestle your own fur from glue traps, ripping flesh from skin in an attempt to survive. Because in July of '97, you birthed a legion on 109th, swarmed from behind dumpsters, made our street infamous for something other than crack. We nicknamed you Cat Killer, raced with you through open hydrants, screeched like you when Siete blasted aluminum bat into your brethren's skull. The sound slapped down dominoes. You reigned that summer rat, and even when they sent exterminators, set flame to garbage, half dead and on fire, you pushed on. Because you may be inelegant, simple, mammal, bottom feeder, always freaking famished, little ugly thing that feast on what crumbs fall from the corners of our mouths. You live uncuddled, uncoddled, can't be bought at Petco and fed to fat snakes because you are not the maze rat of labs, pale, pretty-eyed, trained. You raise yourself sharp, fanged, clawed, scarred, patched dark. Because of this alone, they should love you. But look at the beast, the poet tells me. The table is already full, and rat, you are not a right-worthy thing. Every time they say that, take your gutter, your dirt coat, filth this page, rat. Scrape your underbelly against street, concrete. You better squeak and raise the whole world, rat. Let loose a plague of words, rat, and remind them that you, that I, we are worthy of every poem here.
Love that. Thank you, Grace. I welcome Arthur Art Jones to the spotlight. Oh, you're on mute. We can't hear you. Nope.
I had to switch microphones. I'm sorry.
Here we go.
My name is Art Jones. I've been in Tucson for about 5 years now, but I only discovered the Dunbar about 2 years ago. I've not been inside, but as I drive by, I always think about the stories that I've heard told. And just 2 days ago, I think I heard about this event. And I said, you know, it's Black History Month. Why can't I submit something to read? And I've been delighted. There are stories that I had not heard before that I heard tonight that I will cherish for the rest of this month and for a long time. In honor of all of you, I have a story from Langston Hughes, a little book of anthology, and it's called Let America Be America Again. Let America be America again. Let it be the dream it used to be. Let it be the prisoner on the plane, seeking a home where he himself is free. America never was America to me. Let America be the dream the dreamers dreamed. Let it be the great, strong land of love where never kings connive nor tyrants scheme. That any man be crushed by one above. It never was America to me. Oh, let my land be a land where liberty is crowned with no false patriotic wreath, but opportunity is real and life is free. Equality is in the air we breathe. There's never been equality for me, nor freedom in this homeland of the free. Say, who are you that mumbles in the dark? And who are you that draws your veil across the stars? I am the poor white, fooled and pushed apart. I am the Negro bearing slavery's scar. I am the red man driven from the land. I am the migrant clutching the hope I seek and finding only the same old stupid plan of dog eat dog and mighty crush the weak. I am the young man filled with strength and hope, tangled in the ancient endless chain of profit, of power, gain, of grab the land, of grab the gold, of grab the ways of satisfying need, of work the men, of take the pay, of owning everything from one's own greed. I am the farmer, bondsman to the soil. I am the worker, sold to the machine. I am the Negro, servant to y'all. I am the people, humble, hungry, mean, hungry yet today, despite the dream, beaten yet today, oh pioneers. I am the man who never got ahead, the poorest worker, bartered through the years. Yes, I am the one who dreamt our basic dream in that old world where while a serf of kings, who dreamt a dream so strong, so brave, so true that even yet its mighty daring sings. In every brick and stone and every furrow's turned, that's made America the land it has become. Oh, I'm the man who sailed those early seas in search of what I meant to be my home. For I am the one who left dark Ireland's shore and Poland's plain and England's grassy lea, and torn from black Africa's strand I came to build a homeland of the free. The free? Who said the free? Not me, surely not me. The millions on relief today, the millions shot down when we strike, the millions who have nothing for our pay, for all the dreams we've dreamed, all the songs we've sung, all the hopes we've held, all the flags we've hung, the millions who have nothing for our pay except the dream that's almost dead today. Oh, let America be America again, the land that never has been and yet must be, the land where every man is free, the land that's mine, the poor man's, Indians, Negroes, me. Who made America? Whose sweat and blood, whose faith and pain, whose hand at the foundry, whose plow in the rain, must bring back our mighty dream again. Sure, any ugly name you choose, the steel of freedom does not stain. For those who live like leeches on the people's lives, we must take back our land again, America. Oh yes, I say it plain, America never was America to me. And yet I swear this oath, America will be. Out of the rack and ruin of our gangster death, the rape and rot of graft and stealth and lies, we, the people, must redeem the land, the mines, the plains, the plants, the rivers, the mountains, and the endless plain, all the stretch of this great green states, and make America again. Langston Hughes.
Thank you so much, Art. I now welcome Lillian Hamid to the spotlight.
Hello, I'm Lillian, and I will be reading from Caste, The Origins of Our Discontents. I had trouble finding an excerpt because there's so much in this book that is so important. And I too agree that it should be required reading. What I chose to read is from chapter 9, and it's called The Evil of Silence. And I chose this excerpt because of the correlation with what I see in society today, and it still goes on. I mean, this is from during Hitler's time and during the Holocaust, and it still goes on today because people know our history. They understand what has been happening to us as a people, but they don't speak on it and they don't speak up. They remain silent. So this is the excerpt that I would like to read. The ash rose from the crematorium into the air, carried by karma and breeze, and settled onto the front steps and geranium beds of the townspeople living outside the gates of death at Sachsenhausen, north of Berlin. The ash coated the swing sets, the paddling pools, and the backyards of the townspeople. There was no denying the slaughter and torment on the other side of the barbed wire. The fruit of evil fell upon villagers like snow dust. They were covered in evil, and some were good parents and capable spouses, and yet they did nothing to stop the evil, which had now grown too big for one person to stop. And thus, no one person was complicit, yet everyone was complicit. It had grown bigger than them because they had allowed it to grow bigger than them. And now it was raining down onto their gingerbread cottages and their lives of pristine conformity. The dissident theologian Dietrich Bonhoeffer was one of the millions who suffered and perished behind the electrified walls of the Nazi concentration camp, tortured and kept in solitary confinement. The townspeople hear the prayers of the innocent. Silence in the face of evil is evil itself. Bonhoeffer once said of bystanders, God will not hold us guiltless. Not to speak is to speak. Not to act is to act. The villagers were not all Nazis. In fact, many Germans were not Nazis, but they followed the Nazi leaders on radio, waited to hear the latest from Hitler. The Nazis, having seized the advantage of this new technology, the chance to reach Germans live and direct in their homes anytime they chose. The people had ingested the lies of an inherent ultimatum that these prisoners, Jews, homosexuals, opponents of the right, were not humans like themselves. And thus the townspeople swept the ash from their steps and carried on with their days. Mothers pulled their children inside when the wind kicked up and hurried them along to keep them from being covered in the ash of their fellow human beings. Thank you.
Thank you, Lillian. I now welcome Debbie Chess to the spotlight.
Hello, good evening. I chose Black Theology and Black Power by James Cone, a excerpt out of this about the definition of Black power. And I came to this because I was watching a documentary on PBS about the Black church, and it made me very angry and very proud at the same time. But one of the folks referenced in that was the liberation theologist, James Cone, who died a few years ago. And so I wanted to read this and also say that it was originally written in 1969. And so the language is very patriarchal, refers to the Black man. I would like to think that he would have amended this to include women if he had the chance to. So anyway, I'm starting with a chapter, the first chapter, introduction, toward a constructive definition of Black power. And this is from a quote from Frederick Douglass. If there is no struggle, there is no progress. Those who profess to favor freedom and yet depreciate agitation are men who want crops without plowing up the ground. They want rain without thunder and lightning. This struggle may be a moral one, or it may be a physical one, or it may be both moral and physical, but there must be a struggle. Frederick Douglass. So, Black power, in short, is an attitude, an inward affirmation of the essential worth of Blackness. It means that the Black man will not be poisoned by the stereotypes that others have of him, but will affirm from the depth of his soul, get used to me. I am not getting used to anyone. And if the white man challenges my humanity, I will impose my whole weight as a man on his life and show him that I am not that show good eaten that he persists in imagining. This is Black power. The power of the Black man to say yes to his own Black being and to make the other accept him or be prepared for a struggle. I find myself suddenly in a world, and I recognize that I have one right alone, that of demanding human behavior from the other, one duty alone, that of not renouncing my freedom through my choices.
Thank you, Debbie. Our last final reader of this evening is Barbara Lewis. I welcome you to the spotlight.
I'm sorry.
We can hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was muted. I'm reading very short story by W.E.B. Du Bois, and it's titled "On Being Crazy." This, I think we all know Dr. Du Bois as a very intellectual person, writing papers and all that take you a lot of study and they're slow to read. When I ran across this one, I was certainly surprised, but I think what it shows is his humanness, his more than anything, and it is something different. So I'll start with On Being Crazy. It was 1 o'clock and I was hungry. I walked into a restaurant, seated myself, and reached for the bill of fare. My table companion rose. "Sir," said he to me, "do you wish to force your company on those who do not want you?" "No," I said, "I wish to eat." "Are you aware, sir, that this is social equality?" "Nothing of the sort, sir. It is hunger." And I ate. The day's work done, I sought the theater. As I sank into my seat, the lady shrank and squirmed. "I beg your pardon," I said. "Do you enjoy being where you're not wanted?" she asked coldly. "Oh, no," I said. "Well, you are not wanted here." I was surprised. "I fear you are mistaken," I said. "I certainly want the music, and I like to think the music wants me to listen to it." "Usher," said the lady, "this is social equality." "No, madame," said the usher, "it is the second movement of Beethoven's Fifth Symphony. After the theater, I sought the hotel Well, I had sent my baggage. The clerk scowled. What do you want? Rest, I said. This is a white hotel, he said. I looked around. Such a color scheme requires a great deal of cleaning, I said, but I don't know that I object. We object, he said. Then why? I began, but he interrupted. We don't keep niggers, he said. We don't want social equality. Neither do I replied gently. I want a bed. I walked thoughtfully to the train. I'll take a sleeper through Texas. I'm a little bit dissatisfied with this town. Can't sell you one. I only want to hire it, said I, for a couple of nights. Can't sell you a sleeper in Texas, he maintained. They consider that social equality. I consider it barbarism, I said, and I think I'll walk. Walking, I met another wayfarer who immediately walked to the other side of the road where it was muddy. I asked his reason. Niggers is dirty, he said. So is mud, said I. Moreover, I am not as dirty as you yet. But you're a nigger, ain't you? He asked. My grandfather was so called. Well then, he answered triumphantly. Do you live in the South? I persisted, trying to be pleasant. Sure, he growled, and starved there. I would think you and the Negroes would get together and vote out starvation. We don't let them vote. We? Why not? I said in surprise. Niggers is too ignorant to vote. But, I said, I am not so ignorant as you, but you're a nigger. Yes, I'm certainly what you mean by that. Well then, he returned, with that curiously inconsequential note of triumph. Moreover, he said, I don't want my sister to marry a nigger. I had not seen his sister, so I merely murmured, let her say no. By God, you shan't marry her, even if she said yes. But I don't want to marry her, I answered, a little perturbed at the personal turn. Why not? He yelled, angrier than ever. Because I'm already married and I rather like my wife. Is she a nigger? He asked suspiciously. Well, I said again, her grandmother was called that. Well then, he shouted in that oddly illogical way. I gave up. Go on, I said. Either you are crazy or I am. We both are, he said as he trotted along in the mud. W.E.B. Du Bois, 1907. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara.
Mhm.
I am going to pass it along to Akil.
Yeah.
Akil, you are on mute.
Thank you, Desiree. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello. Okay, well, thank you, everyone. This concludes our program today. I would like to thank everyone, all of the panelists for coming, all of the people that were watching on Facebook and the people that are on the webinar to support this event, to support Black literature. This event affirms the Dunbar's mission of increasing awareness and understanding of the historical and cultural impact of people of African American descent. If you haven't already, please take a moment to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We can be found at the Dunbar Pavilion on Facebook and at the Dunbar Tucson on Instagram. And we look forward to seeing you in the future. Have a great night, and thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Happy Black History Month.
Frida, can I ask the name of that book again?